Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, I would like to welcome you to this special event in Banjaluci, where we have this great honor to be joined by Mr. Donald Trump Jr. I would also like to thank to our hosts, especially Mr. Igor Dodik, who proved himself as a successful business leader in Republic of Srpska and this region, and who initiated all of this and was personally involved in the organization. And I would also like to thank to Sale Media, who partnered in that and facilitated for the event to happen. I have to say that it is my great pleasure and true privilege to be the one standing here to welcome Mr. Donald Trump Jr., who is an outstanding business leader in today's world. He's innovator, he is a visionary of the globally successful Trump organization that has more than 250 affiliates and subsidiaries operating under the Trump name, focused on real estate, hospitality, retail, golf courses. Mr. Donald Trump Jr. has played one of the key roles within the organization in initiation, but also development and construction of some of the historical properties. Just to mention some of them, it's historic West Side Yards in New York. It's iconic Trump Park Avenue. It's also Trump International Hotel and Tower in Chicago that stands for one of the tallest completed building in the world in a residential space, and also hotel that was ranked #1 in the US and Canada by Condé Nast and Travel + Leisure. In Scotland, also Trump International Golf Links that very soon gained the reputation among the golf players and media as one of the best ever built, a must-played location, and that will serve as a supreme location for the international championships. Recently, Mr. Donald Trump Jr. also put a lot of efforts to further expand the brand globally, and he introduced some amazing projects in India, like Trump Towers in 4 cities, that are setting up standards of design and luxury living there. In addition to his real estate efforts, he's also obviously accomplished and highly appreciated keynote speaker globally, with a lot of successful people listening to his advices and being happy to take the lessons. And it's not all. On media front, he also served as an advisor to TV programs like Apprentice. His education is also outstanding. He has graduated from Wharton School of Finance at Pennsylvania University, and he has a degree in real estate and finance. He's resident of state of Florida, and the last, but probably for him the most important one, he's proud father of 5 amazing children. Dear Don, thank you once again. It's a great pleasure to have you again in the region. And now I would like to invite Mr. Igor Dodik to personally thank you and welcome you before we invite you to join to the stage.
Dear and honorable Mr. Trump, esteemed guests, dear friends, respected citizens of Republic of Srpska, it's our great honor and pleasure that you have here with us. Thank you for coming. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Before I go any further, please allow me to express my sincere and heartfelt gratitude for the opportunity and the honor you have given to the people of Republic of Srpska and to our leadership by accepting my invitation and being our guest. We gather here to shape the new vision for Republic of Srpska, for the future of our citizens, for the future of our families, and our children. Everything that we plan and everything we decide to do must be for the greater good of our people and our nation, for every individual who has chosen to stay in Srpska and seek a better future. We are here, ladies and gentlemen, to make this possible, to discuss what is best for our republic, our political strategy, economy, and our business. We must be open to new ideas, new innovation that will lead to constant progress. Republic of Srpska, our institution, and our people have shown resilience against attacks and all terrible wrongdoings from those who stand against and what we strive for. Presidential victory of President Mr. Donald Trump was significantly not only for the United States of America, but for all freedom-loving society with deep Christian and traditional family values. We prayed for that victory and openly supported it. I'm proud that Mr. Trump Jr. trusts our friendship and that he accepted our invitation to share with us our vision to make America great again. I now declare that the Republic of Srpska aspires to be part of this vision as well. This visit represents more than business. It opened a new path toward the realization of great ideas and visions for development. For us, the most important outcome is not merely agreements in energy, digital, infrastructure, or other fields, but the peace and the progress that execution of these ideas will bring. True business, as recognized both here in the circles you belong to, serves not money or power, but develop a community transforming society infrastructure-wise, culturally, educationally, and morally, while making every individual better. Great minds like Nikola Tesla and Mikhail Pupin remind us that great ideas are shaped not by technological development of a place, but by the breadth of the mind that carries them. Today, our people will embed their vision and ideas into the joint plans we create together. Our people have developed, built, defended, and preserved the ideas in nearly impossible condition, often facing the consequences of opposition from dominant liberal elites. We belong to a generation that fights for progress through both books and social media posts, and now more than ever we must strive to accomplish our goals. This is why our gathering today is not merely a business, diplomatic, or official duty. It's a patriotic one. Our patriotic duties are those to which we are most devoted because they create the strongest and most lasting bonds. Considering all that being said, I conclude we are important. Our geopolitical position is important. We are here to stay. With your help and vision, and with the support of the United States administration, so rightly led by President Trump, we feel alive again. With your help, dear friends, and with God's blessing, the vision will come to life quickly and steadily. Mr. Donald Trump Jr., once again allow me, on behalf of my country and on my own behalf, to express my deepest gratitude for your presence today. Your presence speaks volumes. It gives us hope and inspires us that the goals we have outlined can be achieved through our hard work and your support, because small cannot achieve much without the help of the big and friendly. You are that support. We depend on you and we rely on you. In return, you, America, and the Republican administration, led by your father, will have a reliable, truthful, and Christian ally in this part of the world. I would like to conclude with the words of our famous Nobel laureate, Ivo Andrić. What is distant is not what lies far away, but what has no bridge to the heart. Dear friend, Mr. Trump, from this day forward, you have been warmly offered the lasting hand of our people and unbreakable bridge to our country and to our hearts. Thank you once again for coming. Thank you for having us here. God bless the gathering. God bless you all. Thank you.
Dear Igor, thank you. I think we could all feel your gratitude and honest patriotic emotions. And I think with our dear friends, we have a bright future. Dear Don, I would like to invite you to join on the stage and to have a discussion together.
Thank you very much. I speak loud anyway. So it's okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I would suggest that we have a discussion, interactive discussion. I will use the opportunity to ask maybe more questions from my field of interest and operation, which is investments. But I encourage you all, dear guests from the audience, to raise the questions after. So maybe, Don, my first question would be, how do you see the global world trends? And we are a small country. I am from here, so it's very personal for me. We are a small country, but we are proud still to have some potential. We believe we have potential to offer, which has mineral resources, energy resources, great people, but also favorable tax regime. I don't know if you know, but we are among rare countries that has zero tax on dividends. Our profit tax is 10%. Also, we recently did some analysis in the region. We are among the lowest also tax contribution on the salaries. So how do you see in the perspective of global trends, maybe driven by AI, crypto, where energy and these resources has importance? And from your perspective and Trump organization, your strategy, investors you are partnering with, and from your knowledge and experience and your presence on the global scene, how we can contribute to this and maybe best use our potential to attract some investors here.
Well, that's obviously a very broad question, but certainly a good one. In terms of the global trends, obviously, right now you see so much going towards AI, technology. You also mentioned crypto. I see that as a huge part of that into the future. That's going to be the future of finance. As far as we're concerned, it's something that, as the Trump organization, we got involved with very early because, as you've seen in this part of the world and other parts of the world, democracy isn't always democracy. Democracy has been and continues to be weaponized around the world and created a problem for us. On the crypto side of that, before we get into AI and the potential for Srpska Republic, we got into crypto not because we were on the leading edge of technology, but because we had no choice. Much like some of the elections here, other countries in the region, the second we made a definitive stance towards one side, the world very much changed for us. My whole 20, 25 years of my career, prior to that, we were in New York City. We were real estate guys. We built buildings. We weren't tech guys. That wasn't what we did. But one morning we woke up and 300 bank accounts just simultaneously shut off. Some of the major, the largest banking institutions in the world all of a sudden said, congratulations, you have no bank account with us anymore. And these were not political bank accounts. These were not things that, these were the operating account for a restaurant that's part of a hotel that we had, paying a waiter who's not political and had nothing to do with it. And so, we got involved in those technologies because we had no choice. Luckily for us, we have a large platform, solid balance sheet to work with, and unlike a lot of people who were, again, had that same force of government weaponized against them, we were in a position to actually be able to fight back, as difficult as that was. So, crypto is going to be a big part of that. AI is obviously going to be a future. That's a race that, certainly Western civilization has no choice but to win. There's a point where you get too far ahead in the compute, there's no coming back. The winner of that's going to decide a lot. And even in America, while there may be an advantage, some of the places where we're at a disadvantage obviously is going to come from power. And I think that's perhaps an area where here, we were talking earlier about some of the hydro resources that are underutilized. Power is going to be the thing that drives all of that. You can't win the AI race without power. And so while AI is sexy and power is looked at as old-fashioned and, it's not part of the Green New Scam, power is going to be everything. And so I think, for here, that's going to be an incredible opportunity. That's something that can be utilized. You build power, you build data centers, you do that without the bureaucracy that you see even in the United States. Well, we don't want data centers here. Oh, that's wonderful, but we're not going to put them anywhere. They have to be there. They have to be part of that reality, because I think if you lose the AI race, there's no coming back from it. And I think it's going to be a fundamental fight for Western civilization and the values that we all share to make sure that we never lose that race.
Thank you so much. So I think I can say we are somehow on the right path, but it was really useful to hear it from you, and I think we all have a lot of work to do. Maybe just one more question from my side, because I said I'm also emotional and personal about this country and this region and Christians and Serbs. I don't know if you know, but I think around 1,000 Serbs are living in Hungary, and there are elections happening now on Sunday. How can you comment on that? How do you see it? How it will impact the West and this region? Some thoughts if you can share on that topic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. Obviously we're at a business forum, but the reality is a lot of business is going to be downstream of politics. You can't effectuate proper business practices if the political environment does not allow for that. If the regulatory environment becomes too stringent where you can't actually get anything done, none of that matters. And so as it relates to, what's going on in Hungary right now, I guess the election's this Sunday, right? I think Viktor Orban has been a true fighter for Western values. He's a friend, and he did those things. It's not easy. If you take the leftist approach in politics, you get prizes and awards, and you're on the cover of every magazine in the world, even if your opinions are asinine. They could be, men can be women. Oh, it's wonderful. You're very brave. You're stunning and brave. You can push pretty much anything, no matter how radical it is, if you're on that side. If you're on the conservative side of that battle becomes a lot harder. And so Viktor Orban has been a true fighter for Western values and for those beliefs. And so I think it's fundamentally important, not just for Hungary, but if you look at Europe as a whole, and I'm European, my mom was born in Czechoslovakia at the time. It was then the Czech Republic. My political leanings probably started way before 2016. I was obviously always a conservative, but I probably didn't know why. And it was the perhaps unintended consequences, or maybe it was intended, that my mother made me go to what was then Czechoslovakia every summer from when I was about 5 years old. And I went there and I saw the people, and I spoke the language fluently, and it was truly a part of my being. But I also got to experience actual communism and what's going on. And when you see that, and you've lived it, and you've waited in the bread lines, because I was a young kid, my grandfather who took me over there every summer, he wasn't going to go wait in the bread lines. He sent me to go do it. I always found it interesting and ironic that everyone who's preaching about the great virtues of socialism and communism never seem to have actually lived under that construct. They never lived in those systems. They talk about it, from an academic standpoint in theory, but never in practice. No one who escaped, the Soviet bloc and came to America in the 70s or 80s, before the fall of the wall, no one is preaching for the great virtues of communism. No one who came to America on a raft from Cuba is saying, you know what? I left that, but I'd love to bring it here. We really should bring that back. Same thing with Venezuela. And so it's a failed system in everything other than perhaps in the minds of those pushing it. And so Western Europe, which used to be, and again, as an Eastern European sort of guy, even though I'm obviously American, but as a guy who grew up in Eastern Europe, we were always like the red-headed stepchild. I don't know if that translates well, but you understand, you were left off to the side. They don't understand. They don't have the sophistication. They were looked at as a sort of different class of European. And it's amazing now, 30, 40 years later, Eastern Europeans are, in my opinion, the last salvation of Europe. We were without question. I mean, it's not even close. Common sense, values, education. You go to France, everyone wants to work a 2-hour work week, and they want permanent vacations. And between France and the UK, they've allowed themselves to be invaded by people who definitely do not share their values. And, so it was sort of interesting watching, even over the last few weeks, just to frame how far Western Europe has really fallen. When you have the countries of the GCC all in favor of what America's doing in Iran, the only 2 Muslim nations in the world that were against it were France and the UK. And that's pretty scary. And so the people who have been willing to step up in Eastern Europe and actually fight for those values, fight to preserve those traditions that you hold dear and very much align with America, those are people that need to be supported. Those are people that need to be helped. God knows, between the scams of USAID and the Soros Foundation and the billions of dollars that pour into those countries against those individuals, and you've seen the same thing happen in your neighbor in Serbia. I'm sure it's happened here as well, and obviously in Hungary. It's why I think it's fundamentally important to make sure that those people who share your values win those elections. Again, that's important not just from a political standpoint for our children, which we're ultimately all doing this for, and we want to leave the world a better place for them, but it's inextricably linked to business, because the policies of a conservative, Western-valued government are going to enable growth. Growth is what's going to, fix all the wrongs of the world and enable us to leave our children in a better place. So I think anyone who's watching, anyone who's involved, I know there's probably a big population here that may live in Hungary as well. I think those people have to do whatever it takes, get out there and vote and ensure that the communists don't take over Hungary, because if Hungary falls, a lot of the rest of Eastern Europe will as well, because I think he's one of the true fighters in the region, more so than most. And I think those people need to be supported.
Thank you.
Was that ambiguous or was that fairly clear? I just want to make sure.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. I think we fully understand you and share the values, and we are happy that you look at it from that perspective, and really grateful for all the support for Christianity that you are also giving to us. So I'm privileged to be here on the stage, but I would like also to invite our dear guests, if someone has questions, please feel free to raise them.
If no one raises their hand quickly, I'm going to call on my beautiful fiancée, Bettina, to get things going. Bettina actually fits in much better here than I do, because she's really, really tall. And I'm a reasonably tall man, but when I'm here, Serbia, I look around and everyone's like giant. I feel like a midget. So, Bettina at least balances it out a little bit, because she's very tall.
So if I may, here.
Mm-hmm. Please stand up so we can see you, because...
So I'm an Israeli acting in Bosnia-Herzegovina for the past 7 years. I've been following the policy of the United States with regards to LNG exports.
Yes.
Republika Srpska is planning to use an extensive capacity of LNG export from the US. How do you see the relationship strengthening with this kind of collaboration of importing big capacities of LNG, as you say, producing energy, and with this energy supporting the local economy and the development?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question, and it's something that we've seen happen for a long time. This was sort of my father's initial issue as it related to NATO. Again, mostly driven by Western Europe, but they want America to spend hundreds of billions of dollars to protect them against the enemy, I guess, in their minds, which was Russia. At the same time, they're importing all of their LNG and gas from Russia, becoming totally dependent on them. And so it never really made sense. You're going to enrich the enemy that you need us to protect you from. And then in the last 10 days, we say, hey, we'd love to fly a couple planes through your airspace to go deal with this major issue. No, you can't do that. No, you can't land or refuel at our air bases. I'm like, well, we probably paid for them. With friends like, most of those NATO allies, not all, but with friends like most of those NATO allies, who needs enemies? Because I can assure you, if something were to happen to them, they'd be screaming for America to come save their ass. When we need to fly through their airspace, well, we don't really feel like it. We don't really want to do it. And so I think in terms of LNG and natural gas, America has a lot of it. For years, for stupid reasons, global warming, which I think everyone now understands is nonsense. All of the leftists who are in AI and big tech that now realize they need the power to make their billions, all of a sudden they're not talking about extracting gas from the United States. It's no longer a problem. They'll worry about their green nonsense in something else. And so the fact that America has such an abundance there, can supply it to this part of the world, can avoid some of the issues like you see as right now with the Straits of Hormuz or pipelines out of Russia. I think that's a no-brainer. So an alliance with any part of Europe, or frankly anywhere in the world, on the U.S. that can be dependent on energy, I think creates relationships and bonds that don't just really influence national security, but secure a business pipeline and relationship that can go into so many other things. If you take that fuel, you then build data centers here. You have a well-educated population. You have people that are interested in technology. You have a workforce that, on a cost basis is far cheaper than a lot of other parts of the world, given sort of the level of education that you have here. That sort of seems to me like a no-brainer and one of those opportunities to bridge a gap and create a mutual investment back and forth between nations. And so I think that's an incredible opportunity that needs to be exploited. America has the energy. They want to get it out there. And we also want to cut off those who may not be necessarily aligned with us, as in Russia. And so you can solve so many problems, both business-wise and, frankly, geopolitically, on this one issue. So I think it's a major opportunity that should be looked into.
Okay, maybe it's a little unexpected, but I would like to use the opportunity, Bettina, if you feel comfortable, to join us here on the stage to help us to run this discussion. It will be a pleasure.
Wow. Okay, next 15 questions are to her, because it just makes, we just got off a plane. It's so much easier if it happens that way.
Thank you for joining us on the stage. It was spontaneous, but it's really a great pleasure.
By the way, just for the record, I did not ask to do this, because later on, right, everyone's smiling now, but when we get alone, I can't believe you did that to me. Wasn't me, right?
It wasn't you, definitely.
I appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
It was my idea.
You understand. They smile, it's nice, and then it's not so nice.
You gave me some ideas, so I'm happy we can take it further this way. So, do we have more questions, please?
Hello, thank you, sir. And it's a great honor and privilege to speak with you. I have one question and maybe comment from your side. What do you think about European Union and United States relations in the future? And we feel here that European Union is the last fortress of the left liberalism. And also we feel that there is not understanding situation here, because in geopolitical point we are the crossroad of the civilization, and the border between East and West is right where we here now. And I'm afraid that they are looking us as just the lab where something try to produce in the future some kind of the new nations and new things for the future. For that reasons, I'm very interested to hear you. What do you think about the future of the European Union, relations with the United States, and his influence on the what they call the Western Balkans?
Yeah, listen, I think the European Union's been a little bit of a mess. I touched on it, earlier, what's happening Eastern Europe versus Western Europe, and obviously there's a lot of Eastern European countries that are part of the European Union, and I just don't know that they've gotten all that much benefit out of it. I think, I've spoken at, half a dozen business conferences in the last year, all around the world, the biggest players, the biggest names in banking, in finance, in tech, in AI, across the board. And the one common thread that we've seen, they're just not even on the stage, and they're more than happy to say that on a stage as well, because it's not politically correct, but it's so obvious, was that Europe is a disaster. Everyone, every American banker, every big capital person in the Middle East, Europe, in their minds, on every panel, at every dinner, at every private conversation, it's a disaster. But it's a disaster they feel that also needs to be fixed because the impact that it does have on, again, the same values and Western civilization, all of those things that we're talking about. So the only way it gets fixed, though, in my opinion, is if they get out of their own way. Any of these investors, the notion, and I said it, I think, probably quite publicly, certainly in forums that it would get out there, and probably on stage at some of these places. Who would have thought 15, 20, maybe even 10 years ago that you'd feel safer investing in many cases, third world nations or in the Middle East, maybe not in the last 2 weeks, but generally speaking, that'll work itself out in time, than you would have in Western Europe. You would have, if I would have said that to anyone in this room, even 10 years ago, you'd have said, you're out of your mind. And yet now, you look at it, and there are people that I know, that smart guys, they're like, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders. We can't invest there. We don't know what's going to happen in the bureaucracy. We don't know how, with the labor laws. For all we know, we're going to have to hire people that become permanent employees, whether they actually want to work or not. And it doesn't work, and it's scary. So, again, I don't think you have that in Eastern Europe because you have a work ethic that has withstanded some of the woke nonsense that has really been a parasitic thing in the mind in Western Europe. But I think it is not hopeless, but it has to start happening soon because, day in and day out, you see policies that can't possibly make any sense. No, they're politically correct, and again, the media will write a beautiful story about you saying, we must import third world rapists, and we must be okay with it because, they can rape your children, but, I don't know, it's a cultural thing. We don't understand. We must just accept it. When I look at, I use the examples in the UK when they have, roaming gangs, going around raping children. Well, we're not going to pursue that. Someone says something on Facebook or Twitter, hey, this is a really problem. These people shouldn't be here. That person gets more jail time than a rapist. Now, to think about that. Do you guys know what South Park is? Okay. It feels like you're watching an episode of South Park. It's a clown show. And so, that's scary. And again, that mentality isn't just about politics. It's about business. Because if that mentality is there politically, if that insanity exists there politically, there will be no investment. And without investment, you can't fund the insane programs that they have there trying to do whatever it is that they're trying to do. And so all of those things, unfortunately, are inextricably linked. I think they have the opportunity to fix something, but I have yet to see frankly, I have yet to see anyone that has any real chance of winning an election actually come out and say, enough. Enough is enough. These things have been tried. They've failed. It's not working. and now we got to change course because they allowed themselves to effectively get invaded. They're going to lose all their elections because of it, and it's truly a scary prospect. So I see that creating major fractures in the European Union between those few countries in Eastern Europe that actually still believe in, I don't know, common sense, and Western Europe where that's clearly missing in the political discourse these days.
Thank you. Maybe one comment and a question for Bettina, if she would like to comment on that. I'm sorry.
You can ask about Hermes and Chanel and fashion and other things.
I have something. Yeah. First of all, I'm sorry that I didn't prepare introduction about you. What all I believe can see is the same, that I see it's one extremely beautiful lady. But what I had also opportunity to learn and see is she's extremely smart and talkative and educated. So
and also an axe murderer. The look looks very sweet
with angelic face
until it's not.
So one idea that came to my mind. What do you think about some cultural exchange between U.S. and our country? We are a small country, lacking behind in some aspects. How it would be to organize some kind of initiative where our kids would go and travel to U.S. And learn something that your country can offer, and adapt to that environment. And maybe to exchange some. Our habits and what we have to show. How do you think about that initiative? Can we organize something like that in the future and start from the, let's say, beginning?
I think that would be wonderful. I think, having the ability to travel with Dawn and experience different cultures and these wonderful countries, especially in Eastern Europe, it's very inspiring. So I think there's a lot to be learned by visiting your country, and also hopefully some education can be had by visiting the United States. We are a country that has lots of different cultures, which is wonderful. But I really am inspired being here and being surrounded by the business community. I think Eastern Europe, to echo my brilliant fiance's sentiments, it has an opportunity for a renaissance with strong leadership, bold leadership, and common sense politicians. And I think it's wonderful for the business community to be supportive of politics because, as Dawn mentioned, that's how it all happens. You're not able to actually practice business in the way that it should be practiced without strong leadership. So to get involved and to really, advocate for strong politicians like Viktor Orban. And I think in that sense, then children will have more of an opportunity to grow up in an environment where they can live the equivalent of the American dream and have more opportunities to experience those things.
Thank you so much.
But I think it's actually a great idea. Like I said, for me, I know I touched on it earlier, but my experience, spending my summers in Eastern Europe changed everything. I think, frankly, Americans can probably get a lot more out of coming here and spending some time understanding, again, a real work ethic that just, it's just a cultural thing. It still exists. I know, my grandfather, sort of, manly man. He was, coach of the Czech national team. My mom was an Olympian skier. And so it was that sort of strong mentality. It's okay to be a man. It's okay to be masculine. It's okay to do these things. That seems to have been something that really bred out of the mentality in America. It still exists because you have, 340 million people in the country. It's just been very diminished. And so some of those basic things, I think, there's so much to be learned. And for me, again, it was probably an unintended, political indoctrination, only because I saw what a failed system was like, but I also got the good of the values that were left of those people. And so I think that's an incredible opportunity. I think America and Americans often take for granted all of the opportunities that they have, and probably have squandered a lot of those things over the years. I think coming over here and understanding how the real world actually works could be really important.
Thank you so much to both of you. I think one great initiative just was born and started here, so we count on you and your friendship and this agreement, let's say, in that respect. Maybe some more questions? Please. Microphone. Thank you.
Hello, it's a big pleasure of being here with you. I'm a good friend of Igor for a long time from basketball, but I'm also an IT person, and I do know that Srpska Republic has huge capacities of delivering quite cheap energy.
Yes.
And you, Don, are very involved in this new AI world together with your investment funds. And I truly believe, and I talked to Igor, that building here a huge AI infrastructure will benefit a lot the US companies and Republika Srpska. And I would like to understand how could your investment funds and your companies help us build such a project?
That's a good question. Yeah, like I said, power is going to be everything, and so that's the opportunity. When you look at what's going on in the United States, they probably have an advantage in AI right now, but we haven't really changed much on our power grid in 50 years. China's firing up a new coal-powered power plant every week. Dozens of nuclear power plants on the option. You could actually have the greatest technology. If you don't have the power to fuel it, the greatest chips, the greatest plants, the greatest data centers, none of it matters, because without power, you don't have the compute. And so I think that's an opportunity. From our funds, simply because of the way the world works, we invest directly into the United States. That's all we do, because it just creates, you've watched it the first time around with the media and all this, we're agents of Russia. Sometimes it's just not worth dealing with the nonsense. But that said, we are investing in some of the greatest companies in America as it relates to data centers, as it relates to AI, as it relates to that kind of manufacturing. And so I would think the greatest opportunity would be linking up those companies who do have an expanded footprint. We're passive investors in them. They do what they need to do, but saying, hey, we can deliver power this much per kilowatt hour. It's 10x better than you can get somewhere else. That becomes a no-brainer. That becomes, that's their opportunity to say, okay, now it makes sense to invest in the real estate infrastructure behind that. It makes sense to work in the data centers, link up with another one of those portfolio companies. Here's the chips that you need to actually make that happen. And I think that's very doable. I don't know enough about the specifics of the power, but it does seem like you're not utilizing nearly the capacity that you probably could be. And that seems to be a great opportunity for the region to be able to maximize that, because the high-skilled jobs, everything that comes from that flows downstream, and I think would be an amazing opportunity. So that's easy enough.
Thank you. Thank you, Don. Sounds okay. Please.
Thank you very much for having you here today with us. I would like to ask you a question. And if you were looking at Republika Srpska as an emerging investment destination in Southeast Europe, what 3 things would it need to offer for investors sharing your business philosophy to see it as a serious place for long-term investments?
Well, we discussed power already. That's sort of number one. I think, for the opportunities, given the skill set of the people, the opportunity, power is going to be number one. I think you need a regulatory environment that works. If you have bureaucracy, if you can't get anything done, you can have all the power in the world. America did for decades. They just refused to actually utilize it. If you're sitting atop a great resource, but you refuse to use it. I remember during Biden, when they canceled some of the big pipelines going through America, they canceled a lot of the drilling operations, and instead they decided to import their energy from Venezuela, a regime they didn't recognize, and that's changing. in the last month. That's changed seemingly pretty drastically. And Iran, the world's leading state sponsor of terror. When you have that kind of mentality in government, that level of bureaucracy, it doesn't work. So you already have then the third tenet, which would be just an educated workforce. I mean, you've done a great job with that. My understanding on the statistics, per capita, per dollar spent in the area. So you have the three right there. You just have to make sure you utilize all three of those things simultaneously. If any one of those, education is not going to fall out anytime soon, but you get the wrong government in there, they start focusing on the 4,376 genders in school rather than math or science, that can drastically change. So, an educated workforce, energy being paramount, and then a regulatory environment by people with some common sense are three things. And I think, all very doable, but all three of those are going to be required.
Listening to you, it looks like we have all the ingredients. We have a positive future, but it's really important to hear the advices, to know where to focus on, and to get that kind of confirmation that we have some potential, I believe.
100%.
Hello, it's my honor to be here. My name is Sandra Đukanović. I'm a representative of metal industry, if I may say so. So I have just one question. You have already mentioned some things about Eastern and Western Europe. I totally agree with you when it's about this topic. What's my question? We are a small market, as my colleague said, and we are mostly based on the export in European Union. So what's the future of SMEs in next 10 years here in this region?
Well, I think, again, a lot of that's going to be dependent on what goes on in Western Europe, right? If the policies there are anti-development, anti-business, that makes it harder. That said, I think when you look at what's going on in the United States right now, if you look at the tariff situation, all of those things have directed ultimately what will be, over the next 10 years, trillions, of dollars of, foreign direct investment into those countries, manufacturing plants, et cetera. That's all going to require steel, metals. I'm not sure specifically which ones you deal with, but I think it probably ends up being one of those things where you realign your traditional export routes and have to start, branching out to places that are going to be more favorable towards that kind of development. If you can produce it better and cheaper than you can in Western Europe, and I imagine, again, I don't know enough about your specific business, but I know they're probably not building a lot of smelting plants or any of these things because of the policies there. I think that creates an opportunity for you to expand into places, whether it's America, whether it's Latin America, that may be more favorable towards building and creating a manufacturing base, that is much needed because, all of it is about making sure that whether it's Europe in general, whether it's the United States, whether it's the rest of the world, that they can't be unilaterally dependent on China for all of their manufacturing. We've seen what happened during COVID. We've seen what's even happened over the last few years as it relates to rare earth minerals, et cetera, and our supply chains. And we have to make sure that our supply chains aren't tied up with one party whose interests do not align with us. In many cases, you could look at as, I don't know that the word enemy is too strong a word. I think it probably is quite accurate. We're not allowed to say that in the United States because they'd criticize you, but I'm sure if you went to China, they'd probably say that very clearly. And so, anything that creates or eliminates that unilateral supply chain from China, I think is an incredible opportunity and probably where you should be looking to try to branch out.
Thank you so much. I think we should be also careful about time. Maybe one or two more questions, 10 minutes, and that would be.
Sure.
One more question, maybe, from the audience. Please.
Dobar dan. Ja ću pitati naš srpski jezik, pošto ne znam engleski, pa molim da prevedite.
I'm not sure what he said, but I'm going to need you to translate for me.
Pozdravljam gospodina Trumpa juniora. Došao je najljepši grad u svijetu, na najljepšu republiku srpsku u svijetu, koja je dosta propatila zbog gospodina Trumpa dok nije pobjedio. Ja sam poslao cipele Melaniji Trump prije prvi mandat kad je bio, to je cijeli svijet obavio, dobio sam od njih poziv da idem tamo u New York na inauguraciju. Međutim, američka ambasadorka i demokrata, gospođa Kormak, mi nije dala vizu, bio sam Dodikov savjetnik. I ona mi je rekla da dadnem ostavku na savjetnika da ću ići u Ameriku. Ne pada mi na pamet, volim ja svog predsjednika više nego njegovu vizu. Tako da smo mi dosta propatli ovdje zbog Amerike. Međutim, moje drugo pitanje. Gospođa, vaša sestra pravi cipele, a ovdje ima jaka industrija obuće. Mi smo nekada prije rata jako puno radili za Ameriku. Bilo je, bogam, dobro i plaćeno, bilo je to dobar posao. Pa da malo vidite da tu radi oko 15.000 radnika sa vašom sestrom, da malo počnemo praviti cipele. I moje drugo pitanje, ja sam senator Republike Srpske, mi ovdje imamo svoj senat, da malo povežemo senat naš i američki, da se čuje šta se ovdje dešava. Ovdje su Iranci igrali nogometa sa glavama srpskih vojnika. Bili su džihadisti u armiji Bosne i Hercegovine. Tako da mi smo to sve prošli, propatli naš predsjednik zajedno. Zato dobro došli u Banja Luku, živi i zdravi bili i nek vas Bog čuva i blagoslovi Ameriku. Hvala. I Republiku Srpsku.
So I have no idea what he said, but that sounds like a politician.
Okay.
I can just tell by the pace.
Gentleman is senator, that's what he said. I will try to translate. I'm sorry, probably I will not remember all the details. First of all, he said, welcome to the most beautiful country in the world and to the most beautiful city in the world. He was talking about supporting the President Trump. He wanted to go to elections, to inauguration, I think, and they didn't give him a visa because he was advisor to Mr. Milorad Dodik. But questions he had, one business question was, we have a very strong shoe production industry here. So 15,000 of employees and workers, how we can connect and maybe make some kind of cooperation with your sister to make shoes here. That was one question, if I'm right. And the other, how we can connect our senates to cooperate together. Nadam se da sam dobro prevela.
What was the second part? How can we connect what?
Senate.
Their Senate?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, that I don't know enough because I don't understand enough about the way the political systems work here. But listen, I think the shoe business is similar to the last answer as it relates to China. We've made it impossible in America to, not impossible, but virtually impossible to do a lot of manufacturing of these basic things. This is actually linking back up to my Czechoslovakia story. When I grew up, there was a small town in Zlín where we spent all our time. It's about 3.5 hours east of Prague, and the entire industry there was Baťa shoes. It was a sort of famous shoe company, supplied most of Europe and at the time, and it was all based there. A lot of that infrastructure eventually crumbled, but I think again here, because of the way you can have the workforce, the salary that you can have make a decent wage and still make shoes, you can't do that in the United States. It doesn't work. So to be able to utilize a good workforce at reasonable numbers, create a manufacturing base. Again, I think it's an opportunity that you're taking away from a lot of the places in Asia that are actually doing that. So I think that is certainly something to be competitive. I'm not exactly sure how the United States could help with that, but I imagine, again, if the brand is there and the manufacturing there and the numbers are right, not having everything linked into one place probably makes a lot of sense, and so I imagine there's a lot of opportunity there.
Thank you. Nadam se da je uspeo da odgovori na vaše pitanje i da sam dobro prevela. Maybe one more question for the end of discussion. Anyway, I have a question if you don't have another. So maybe,
how about a really hard one for Bettina?
Or maybe from
really hard.
Maybe question for Bettina.
Bettina, how awesome is Don?
So awesome. Just ask him.
Good answer.
So maybe what?
Sorry.
Okay.
I have one question, please. First, thank you very much for coming in. It's a more general question. It's also related to business. But I know since 2016 to 2026, you've gone through different phases, especially business-wise, with your family and everything. And we just need to ask you for a piece of advice regarding these challenges that you faced throughout these last 10 years, especially between 2020 and 2024. Obviously, you kept your business at the top level, at the high level. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that you work with, your team, the group that you gathered that stayed on a path throughout all this time. But if you can just share with us some advices on all these challenges that you faced, what you think is the most important things that you can single out and say, if this wasn't here or if we haven't done this, I think we would have gone in a totally different direction.
Oh, it's actually a great question, and it's complicated because, again, for years, as I mentioned earlier, as a real estate guy in New York and a system before, politics was weaponized against us, I could call any banker in New York and get a loan for a building that we were building in about 2 minutes, and then overnight everything changed very rapidly and very quickly, and so a place where, let's just say, I was no longer invited to the cool person parties, which is fine. I always joke about politics. Once we started getting involved in that, everyone knew where I stood, all my friends before that, but a lot of them magically disappeared. They would text me, "Hey buddy, I love what you're doing," but then I see them on Facebook. "This is outrageous." They're clout chasing. And so, I think number one is you have to just keep fighting. You have to fight, you have to not give up, and in that, it doesn't mean you're going to stay the same. You also have to be able to adapt. Our business today is, fundamentally different than it was before. And had it not been for this sort of, excursion into politics, it probably would have never changed. It would have been the same. And yet, I welcome it because, A, you figured out who your real friends were, so you were able to. It was actually a cathartic, thing. Those who stuck with you, even if they didn't agree with you, but were, maintained that friendship. Those are friends for life, and those who didn't, you never have to do that, annual lunch with someone that you don't really want to see, but you went to college with them, so you have to do it, and it frees up a lot of your schedule. But number one thing we learned is you just have to keep going. You have to be able to evolve, and you have to keep going. When I saw what was really thrown at us, there was a time it seemed insurmountable, right? We're in real estate and hotels and resorts, and all of a sudden you just said, "Hey, you just pissed off 50% of your audience." All right, probably more because we were in cities, right? So that was already very left-leaning. So take 60, 70% of your audience and you said, bye-bye. Even if you had the best product, even if you made the best thing, even if you had the best service, none of that mattered. And so you wake up one morning and you say, holy shit, this is a problem. And it was actually very difficult to me. And yet you learn pretty quickly, though, that if you fight, if you stay in that game, the respect you have from the people that were actually on your side was actually far more important than just being indifferent or agnostic to the entire whole. So it was greater to be, looked at or perhaps even somewhat revered by a smaller segment of the population that just was waiting for so long for someone to just say, again, enough. For someone to open that door for them to say, hey, it's okay to have this conversation. It's okay to fight for this. Most people actually believe it. They were just too afraid to actually say it out loud, right? They could say it, I'd walk into a restaurant in New York, hey, love it, thumbs up, but I'm not going to let my friends see that because, there was a social consequence to getting engaged and involved in those processes. So you just have to keep going. If you have that flexibility and you have that fight, that business will evolve and the market will be there. You just have to do that even when it's not comfortable. And it will often be not comfortable for quite some time.
Thank you. One question from Brett, or I can ask. Okay.
Hello.
You're in trouble.
This is coming from Bettina. So, as soon to be, your last name changed to Trump, right? How do you?
We don't know. We haven't even decided that. Maybe she keeps her last name. What do you think, Ben?
Maybe that was the question.
I'm not a hyphen kind of last name guy. I don't think that works.
I've been around for 18 years and everything, and I get one question all the time: is what's it like to be in the family, and what's the real story behind? How do you feel about becoming part of this family? Where do you see your role? Because every Trump, when you get that last name, it comes with a lot of responsibilities, we all know. I'm just kind of curious of what you think about your adventure of getting here, because I imagine your life has changed a lot in the last couple of years as well.
Yes, it has. And I would say I'm proud. I'm proud to take the name Trump and with everything that comes with that.
So far, so good.
So you have answered.
But it's an honor to stand with a family who fights for what's right and who I believe is on the right side of history. And I think, you know, they've endured a lot throughout this political process, and I think many people in the world, and even just the reception here in this beautiful country, shows that it's impacting a lot of lives. And I have always felt like, you know, I'm blessed to be a blessing to others, and that my life can be a life of service to make this world a better place if I have that opportunity. And I'm very proud to stand with this man right here. So.
Not bad. I think we'll keep her. I'm going to get myself into so much trouble later, but I just can't help myself. That's what the Trump genes run strong, and so sometimes we speak first, think later, but it's okay.
Oh, Brad, you asked about my role. I think I can be a gentler counterpart to this sometimes blunt
she plays the role, Brad, that you played oftentimes, which is, I'm going to send this tweet right now. No, you can't send that. It's like, yeah. So then I just have the opportunity to complain to my friends, Bettina's not letting me send this. It would be really good, but probably keeps me out of a little bit of trouble.
Okay, thank you so much. I had some similar question for the end in terms of are there any interesting projects or some mutual project that you are working on that you can share with us, hoping that maybe you will address this topic. So, Brad, thank you for asking this so directly. So that would be a question, if there is any also project, something that we can see that you are working on that you can disclose in business?
In general, in business, I mean, you know, right now, you know, so much of our focus has been on, you know, growing those businesses that we got into because we were forced into it, right? You know, I think seeing what happened to us in the financial world, in the banking world, you know, probably my number one right now is going to be, you know, ensuring what we're doing in crypto is successful, because I think we really want to, you know, democratize the notion of financing. I said it before when I was a young kid and I probably didn't know anything. I could call any banker in New York, and because of who we were, things happened, right? It just worked out. Not necessarily, you know, I'd like to think our projects were better than other people, but there were probably a lot of great innovators that just didn't have those same opportunities or couldn't get those loans. And so I think a lot of the stuff that we're doing, really, especially with World Liberty Financial, you know, DeFi crypto platform, to be able to make sure that, you know, people can utilize the capital markets effectively in a democratized fashion, I think is going to create a lot of opportunity for incredible innovators, incredible business minds that simply may not have that opportunity otherwise, you know, in sort of the TradFi world, where, you know, a lot more of that stuff was relationship-based rather than, you know, a meritocracy. And so, you know, that's a big one. While, you know, I'm not in government and I don't associate with that, I understand sort of the importance of, you know, winning elections and making sure that you can perpetuate, you know, the policies that maintain the regulatory environment that I was talking about. That's, you know, paramount to business. So, you know, as we get closer to midterms, be heavily involved in that campaigning for those who, you know, share our beliefs with that. So, and then we also have to go through, get married and do that whole thing, and
that's,
you know, that's a big project.
That's the project.
That's a big project.
One,
so,
yeah.
So you know, obviously, then the investment. We're no shortage of interesting projects right now. But you know, even from the fund perspective, at 1789 Capital, it's, you know, investing in those companies who are going to fuel that next generation of American business and innovation. So, you know, that's a fundamental aspect of that, bringing that manufacturing, bringing that kind of business back into the United States, making sure that those American competitors can compete on a world stage. So, you know, there's no shortage of opportunity right now, and it keeps our schedule pretty full.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again. It was a great pleasure and
you.
privilege and honor to have you here.